Here we are in Dancing in the Streets, our new exhibition on the history and culture of second line organizations and parading in New Orleans. The exhibition goes back to the late 18th century and moves forward to the contemporary period, showing a number of images from post-Katrina parades. We worked with a lot of people on this project and are really proud to have been able to do that, including the late Ronald W and Sylvester Francis of the House of Dance and Feathers and Backstreet Cultural Museum, who sadly passed away in 2020. We were able to work with them going back to 2018 and 2019, and after they passed away, we decided to dedicate the exhibition to them. We have items from both museums on display. We worked with something like 30 different clubs to do interviews to include their voice throughout the interpretation of the exhibition. We collaborated with the Neighborhood Story Project to conduct those interviews and build out narratives of the histories of these clubs. And then, of course, there are 12 contemporary photographers that we feature in the exhibition as well. So it's quite a big group of folks that had a hand in this exhibition. We were really proud to kind of bring it all together and also highlight some of our permanent collections on the other side. In the historical section, our Jules Cahn collection, Michael P. Smith collection, John Bernard and Bill Russell really build out that side of it. So coming into this back gallery, we have our contemporary photographs behind me, as well as our section on the House of Dance and Feathers to my left, and the Backstreet Cultural Museum on the other side. These sections are comprised of items that are on loan from those museums. And we're really proud to be able to display some of what they had on exhibition. Those two museums have been around for a few decades and for a long time have been the leaders in interpreting second line culture in New Orleans, as well as Mexican Indian culture in New Orleans. So we really learned a lot from them, and they set the foundation for so much of what has come after in terms of exhibiting second line items. So we're really proud to be able to have some of their material on display. We have a couple images of Ronald Lewis here parading items he wore, items he made. This section is built out with three-dimensional objects, some streamers, a basket, features some of the artists that make those items. At the Backstreet side, we have a little bit more of a narrative, and we'll go over there in a second. But as you come around the room, you can see we've got a suit on display from Tamara Jackson of the VIP Ladies. This is their theme that year was Proud as Peacocks, to celebrate women in leadership roles. And you can see the peacock feathers on the fan. There's a peacock brooch on the hat. And the peacock blue is unmistakable as well. Behind her suit, you can see a number of these contemporary photographs. We organized these going from left to right as you look at them to build out the program of a parade. So on this side, you'll start with people getting ready, the backstage scene before coming out at the Treme Center or wherever people are coming out. You'll see the coming out. You'll see people working on pieces of the finery, moving along to the coming out, to people dancing, to choreographed dances. All age groups shown, the music, the food, the people that hold the ropes, all the elements that come together to make a parade what it is. We tried to grab a little bit and put it on the wall so you get a sense of parading culture and what it is and looks like today. Continuing around, we've got another suit here. This is a suit worn by Ronald W of the Pigeontown Steppers, one of the founders of that club. And this is, you can see, an anniversary suit. So it's for their 25th anniversary. Traditionally, that club, which parades on Easter, likes to wear some pastels, but for their anniversary, they went with a cream and gold look to come out. And you can see, if you look closely, there are some alligator features on the clasp, on the hat, on the belt buckle, and on the shoes. So it's a really beautiful suit. And that year, because they wanted to stick with their tradition as well, they stopped halfway through their route and changed into a new suit with a seafoam green color. So quite an elaborate suit, two suits that year. This is our section on the Backstreet Cultural Museum. Like I said, all these items are on loan from that museum located in the Treme. We have an image here of Sylvester Francis filming, and of course, in addition to operating the museum, he was a photographer and videographer and documenter of second lines and jazz funerals and Mardi Gras Indians. We have a quote here from him. He says, "I think I was born to be a cameraman." So we talk about him and that a little bit, and have some of his cameras that he used over the years to document parades. Two of the ones at the bottom are Polaroids. Reason being, he liked to give the subjects of his photographs copies of the photographs after he took them. That was important to him, to give back to the practitioners of the culture, rather than using the photos for the photographer's purpose. And that's kind of how he based his whole practice at the Backstreet Cultural Museum. It was meant to give back. And we've tried to learn from that ethos and methodology, and informed our work with the clubs, and sharing the items that we have with them, and talking with them about those items, getting interpretation that we've been able to weave throughout, whether it be in quotes on the wall or in our audio guide that you can access as you go through the exhibition. So, and then across the way, in the Lawrence Simon Nelson Gallery, we have our history section, where we build out the background of the clubs where parading originated in the city and how it's evolved over a couple hundred years. Our story begins in the late 18th century, where we talk about the beginning of the Benevolent Association and Mutual Aid Association tradition in New Orleans, with the Perseverance Benevolent Association, which formed in 1783 here in the city. As the years advanced into the first half of the 19th century, a number of these organizations grew. Specifically, there were a number of Afro-Creole organizations, such as the Economy Society. And many of these focused on education, social services, and we're also interested in working towards manumission of enslaved people in the city as well. So that was a key element of many of their organizations. Moving forward through the Jim Crow and into the 20th century, these organizations really grew in number, and a lot of people belonged to a club of some kind. And this really stretched across all ethnicities and identities in the city. But the mutual aid and social and pleasure clubs in the African American community in New Orleans really continued past when some of the other clubs fell out of popularity in New Orleans. These organizations, again, focused on social services, end of life care, burials at a time when it was difficult to reach and access those services for New Orleans African Americans. Of course, parading was a part of this history as well, and you see it really start with anniversary parades going back into the late Reconstruction Jim Crow era, and also funerals. Funerals with music were a popular element and a popular service provided by some of the benevolent associations for their members. By the 20th century, we really see an explosion in the social and pleasure clubs, where social services are becoming more available for people. So the clubs are really focusing on community building, and charitable works, and of course parading. And so we build all that out in our section on the history across the way, and then we look at the history of the funeral parade, and then the evolution through the 20th century, how things like Jazz Fest, the Tambourine and Fan, which was an organization to teach Black children in New Orleans Black cultural traditions like second lining and history and masking, as well as the Olympia Brass Band and Danny Barker's Fairview Christian Church Band. These elements kind of work together to create a renaissance for social and pleasure clubs and parading after in the 60s and 70s and 80s and going forward. We build that history out across the way as well, and that really gets you to the modern tradition that we see on the streets today. We look at a couple of the key, we look at a couple of the older clubs as well, including the Jolly Bunch, which paraded downtown, was known for parading for up to 6 to 8 hours during their annual parades. The Money Wasters, which originally formed in the 20s and reformed in the 70s, early 70s, and were one of the first clubs to include a women's division that paraded on the street. And we have information about that history. The Olympia Brass Band is featured, as well as the Young Men Olympian Junior. The oldest benevolent association is still active and still parading. The oldest organization that still parades in the city. They are founding to 1884. And a number of clubs that exist today and a number of the leaders of clubs came out of that organization. So they've really continued and been a key element in the preservation of the cultural practice of second lining in New Orleans. So we talk about them, the Avenue Steppers, the Ladies Zulu, who we think may be the first women's club to parade starting in 1960. And then we look at two of clubs that still parade today, the Sudan Social and Pleasure Club and the Black Men of Labor. Both of these clubs believe in the importance of preservation of the cultural practice. The Sudan formed in the 1980s and really grew out of the Tambourine and Fan organization that Jerome Smith had set up in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The Black Men of Labor formed in the early 1990s following the funeral for jazz great Danny Barker, who of course worked with the Fairview Christian Church Band to preserve traditional jazz and brass band musical practice. That's a key element of their parade. So they really bring the past forward, and that's why they're featured in that section across the way. We also have a beautiful map on the landing just over here that shows the routes, 35 different routes from the last full parading season, which was 2018 and 2019. The parade season runs from August to June, so the clubs take July off, but it's a full season. And you can see on the map where these parades are. They're very tied to their neighborhoods, and the geography of practice is really interesting to see on this wall in large format. You can see the two distinct nodes, one in the Central City area and one in the 6th and 7th wards, and then a few different parades that kind of link them all together. The last element that I want to mention that we're really proud of is our audio guide, which you can access on your mobile device in the gallery. And this gives you the chance to hear from club members themselves about some of the items on the wall and the history of their clubs and what it's like to parade.
So we came out with this, what they wanted in the exhibit. It was cream and gold, because most time it's your anniversary, you wear white. And the second time, for our 10th year, we wore white. For our 20th year, we wore gold. And so we like, man, we did that gold, we did white. So, we was thinking on some gold and white, And what about cream and white? We brainstormed on that. Yeah. What about cream and white? So we was like, oh yeah, come on. we went to cream and gold. I mean, we went to cream and gold. So
we have 32 audio clips that are about a minute each that are tied to specific items on the wall. So as you go through, you can hear from club members talk about what's going on in a picture. And it's one way that we added to our polyvocal approach in the gallery. So we have quotes on the wall, quotes on our text panel, and then this audio element too, so you can listen to the club members rather than the curators, or the club members and the curators. I hope you'll enjoy that aspect too. Thank you for joining us here at Dancing in the Streets. I look forward to seeing more of you in person in the exhibition. It's located at 520 Royal Street at the Historic New Orleans Collection in our Tricentennial Wing. Tickets are free. We recommend making a reservation so that you can come in at a specific time. We're doing time ticketing to regulate the number of visitors in the gallery space for COVID protocol. So get your reservation. You'll know when you can come in and see the exhibition. And we look forward to having you here. For more information about getting your ticket or where to see the show, you can go to our website, hnoc.org. We have an exhibition website you can check out for more information as well at hnoc.org/second line. And there you'll find more information on our dedication. You will find the information to get your ticket. And there's also information about the book, the upcoming book that is part of this project, Dancing in the Streets, that we expect to have out sometime this spring, and we're really looking forward to that as well. So come on in.